Hello students, welcome to our online video tutorial class. So I think you have seen the previous video whatever I have made on the epithelial tissue. So today we will be entering within the next type of the tissue which is there in the chapter of animal tissue, that is the connective tissue. So when we will be entering in this specific tissue, we all know connective tissue is exclusively the type of the tissue which is responsible for providing the structural support for the tissues as well as providing the support to the organs of the body. Connective tissues are exclusively composed of various kind of cells, as well as surrounding the cell there is a presence of liquid matrix portion, that is commonly known as extracellular matrix. The dominance of the extracellular matrix present in the connective tissue, it is a special feature because due to presence of that only this specific tissue, that is a connective tissue, is different from other type of the tissues present in the body, because how much extracellular matrix is present in connective tissue, that much extracellular matrix is not available in any of the other tissue present in our body. All connective tissues are exclusively derived from the mesodermal layer, because in the, if you will see the embryonic stage, there are three germ layers are present: ectoderm, endoderm and mesoderm. That the mesoderm is exclusively made up of mesenchymal cells, and those cells are responsible for producing this connective tissue throughout the body. So first of all, now we will be seeing about the various kind of the connective tissues. First of all, connective tissue can be of two types. One is connective tissue proper, another one is connective tissue specialized. Connective tissue proper means that is an ideal type of the connective tissue, that's why it is known as connective tissue proper, and specialized means this of the connective tissue is special than the normal type of the connective tissue or the ideal type of the connective tissue. Within the connective tissue proper, there are two types of the connective tissues are coming. One is loose connective tissue, another one is the dense connective tissue. Loose connective tissue is further segregated into areolar, adipose and reticular connective tissue, and dense connective tissue is further segregated into regular, irregular and elastic connective tissue. If you see the specialized type of the connective tissue, that will be segregated into three different categories. One is blood, second one is bone, and third one is cartilage. Bone, you can see there are two types of bones are present. One is spongy bone and another one is compact bone, and cartilage is exclusively of three types also: elastic, fibrocartilage and hyaline cartilage. Okay. So now just going for the next slide, we are starting with connective tissue proper or the ideal connective tissue. Connective tissue proper or the ideal connective tissue is exclusively the type of the connective tissue where the cells are of this specific connective tissue proper are fibroblasts. First of all, that is a very important representative cell of this connective tissue, because these cells which are present, or the fibroblast cells which are present in the connective tissue proper, they are responsible for producing various kind of fibers. Okay, this specific type of the cells are producing the fibers, and those fibers are present within the extracellular matrix, and they are responsible also as a non-living element. Mesenchymal cells are also there, because these cells are exclusively the modified form of the mesodermal cells, because these cells are also present in the extracellular matrix and forming the structure of the connective tissue. Adipose or fat cells are also present. Keep it in your mind, these specific cells are responsible for synthesis and the storage of the lipid or fat, and they are present also in the extracellular matrix. Next one is the mast cell. Mast cell is a type of the cell which is responsible for containing secretory granules, and within those secretory granules, histamine, heparin, this kind of chemical substances are present. Histamine is actually acting as an agent which is fighting against the allergens, and heparin is actually acting as an anticoagulant present within the blood, so that the coagulation will not take place inside the blood vessel anywhere. Macrophages are those specific type of the cells which are commonly known as big eaters, and they are also considered as a scavenger cell, because from outside, when any kind of the foreign pathogen will enter within the body, specifically these macrophages which are present in the liver, myeloid region, lymphatic tissue, they will engulf those specific type of pathogens or foreign particles. There are plasma cells also present in the extracellular matrix which are responsible for producing the antibodies. Those are actually the B lymphocyte cells also. Blood cells are also present. All type of the blood cells, RBC, WBC, platelets, all kind of the blood cells are also involved within the extracellular matrix of the connective tissue proper. That means here in this slide you can understand the connective tissue proper or the ideal connective tissue is exclusively made up of the huge amount of cells present in the extracellular matrix, and those cells are having different functions. Now we are just entering within the type of the connective tissue proper, that is a loose connective tissue. Obviously from the name you can understand loose connective tissue is a type of the tissue where the extracellular matrix portion is so much liquefied. So for that reason it is commonly known as loose connective tissue, and the loose connective tissue can be of three types. One is areolar connective tissue, second one is adipose connective tissue, and third one is reticular connective tissue. So areolar connective tissue which is present here, that is the type of the connective tissue which is loose in manner. Adipose connective tissue is the type of the connective tissue which is storing fat within it, and reticular connective tissue is exclusively the type of connective tissue which is containing so many reticular fibers, or like that arrangement. So one by one we are discussing now. Loose or areolar connective tissue, exclusively these are located in the under the epithelial tissue, because the areolar tissue will be present under the epithelial tissue. They are acting as the packing material between the muscles, nerves and glands. So the muscle, nerves and glands all are getting packed together due to the presence of the loose or areolar connective tissue. Structure: the cells which are present in the loose or areolar connective tissue, they are forming a network of collagen fibers. So exclusively in case of connective tissue, that is the main thing, in their extracellular matrix fibers are present, and those fibers are actually making that extracellular matrix little bit liquid or little bit dense. So due to presence of the collagen fibers in the extracellular matrix region, automatically this specific type of the connective tissue is getting liquefied. Function is that it is responsible for packaging purpose, it is providing support as well as providing the nutrients also. Coming to the adipose tissue is a type of the connective tissue which is responsible for storing the various kinds of fat, or the storing the lipid, as well as they are responsible for synthesizing lipids. They are closely packed, adipocyte cells are present, and the nucleus are pushed towards one of the side due to the presence of the fat droplet. So adipose tissue is exclusively the type of the tissue which is having the fat droplet within which the fat remains stored, and due to presence of that fat droplet the nucleus is pushed in one side. If you see the function of the adipose tissue, obviously they are storing the fats, that means they are reserving the fuel for doing the various kind of activities. They will insulate against heat loss, internal body heat, so that it will not get lost. So for that reason it will be acting as an insulator, covering the entire body just below the skin layer, and it will be supporting and protecting the internal organs from any kind of external shock. That is also the main function of this adipose tissue, because it is acting as a cushion. Location: obviously it will be found by areolar tissue, because under just areolar tissue obviously the adipose tissue will be there. It is present under the skin layer, and it will be insulating the body and protecting the internal organs. It will be present in the joints also, and those joints are actually when they are present in the joints, that joints are also actually they are functioning as the cushions. They are present around the kidneys, they are present between the muscles, behind the eyeball, within abdomen, as well as in the breast region. So which of the regions present in our body are soft, are containing more swelled part? So obviously those portions actually has been made by the help of this adipose tissue. They are responsible for synthesizing fat, they are responsible for storing the fat. Okay. So locations and functions are also very much clear to all of you students. Now we are entering within the reticular connective tissue. Reticular connective tissue is a type of the connective tissue which is containing the network of reticular fibers as well as reticular cells. So reticular cells and reticular fibers are all making this kind of the connective tissue, that is the reticular connective tissue. It is commonly mostly found in the stroma of the liver, it is found in the spleen, it is found in the lymph nodes as well as within the red bone marrow. They are acting as a filter in the spleen region as well as in the lymph node region. So reticular connective tissue, the name has been given due to presence of reticular fibers and reticular cells. They are present in liver, spleen, lymph nodes as well as they are acting as a filter in spleen and lymph node region. Coming to the dense connective tissue, obviously from the name only we can understand the extracellular matrix is not so much liquefied, it is rather dense like. So for that reason it is commonly known as dense connective tissue. It is actually the small amount of cells and ground substances are present. Keep it in your mind, large number of fibers are present in the extracellular matrix. So for that reason this is commonly the dense connective tissue. The fibers which are present in the dense connective tissue, those are white and arranged and densely arranged there specifically, and function is exclusively maintaining the connection, supporting the internal organs. Those are actually present in this dense connective tissue. Dense connective tissue can be of three types: dense regular, dense irregular and elastic. Dense regular connective tissue is the type of the connective tissue where the fibers which are present in the extracellular matrix, they are arranged in a parallel manner, in a regular manner. So for that reason they are commonly known as dense regular connective tissue. Example, tendon and ligaments. These are the example of the dense connective tissue. Keep it in your mind, tendons are those specific thread-like structures which are quite thicker, and they are present in between the bone and muscle, attaching bone and muscle. And most ligaments which are actually compared to the tendon, they are thinner, and this type of the ligaments are exclusively present in between the bones, specifically in the joints. So these tendons and ligaments are made up of regular arrangement, a parallel arrangement of the fibers, so that's why they are commonly known as dense regular connective tissue. Next one is the dense irregular connective tissue. What is that? Dense irregular connective tissue are those specific connective tissue where fibers are not parallel, they are irregularly present, and they are also the hard bulbs. Hard bulbs are also controlled by the specific irregularly present or irregularly present connective tissue fibers. Elastic, keep it in mind, they can extend and return to the original length. The lungs are present, and in the lungs as well as in the artery region, this specific type of elastic connective tissue, which are dense connective tissue also, they are present. Now we are just entering within the, after the dense connective tissue, we are entering within the specialized connective tissue. From the name only we can understand this specific type of the connective tissue and their cells are exclusively present in human body for some special functions. So for that reason these connective tissues are commonly known as specialized connective tissues. Specialized connective tissues are mainly of three types: cartilage, bone and blood. So now one by one connective tissue we will be discussing. First of all, cartilage. Cartilage is a such kind of special kind of the connective tissue which is responsible for supporting the entire skeletal tissue, because in between the bones, specifically in the joint region, the head portion or the lower portion, lower end portion or the upper end portion of the bones are get covered by a semi-solid, you can say semi-solid soft white colored layer, and that specific white colored connective tissue layer which is present in the lower end or of the upper end of the bone, that is commonly known as cartilage. Keep it in your mind, this specific cartilage is made up of the cells which are commonly known as chondrocyte cells. Okay, 2 to the 5% of the tissue volume is actually the total cartilaginous tissue. How much is present? 2 to 5% is getting represented by chondrocyte cells, and those cells are present in the lacunae, located in the lacunae, and they are surrounded by an intercellular matrix. Keep it in your mind, in the lacunae only these chondrocyte cells are present, and they are surrounded by an intercellular matrix. Okay, now cartilage can be of three types. One is elastic cartilage, second one is, there are three types of cartilages are present. One is the elastic cartilage, second one is hyaline cartilage, and third one is fibrocartilage. Elastic cartilage is a such kind of the cartilage which is most flexible type of the cartilage, and exclusively these cartilages are present in the ear. So for that reason also you can understand the ear portion is so much soft, because the cartilageous portion is so much elastic. Hyaline cartilage, this kind of the cartilage is the second most flexible cartilage, and it is actually making our nose region. That's why the hyaline cartilage is actually making the nose. That's why the nose portion is also soft, but not that much soft like the ear. Fibrocartilage, that is a type of the cartilage which is having the fiber within it. So for that reason it is not so much flexible like the hyaline and elastic cartilage. Rather it is least flexible, and it is present in the knee as well as in between the vertebrae region. They are present actually. Coming to the function of the cartilage, exclusively the cartilage is performing various kind of the functions. As usual, they are supporting the body, they are providing a framework, providing the attachment sites of the muscles, as well as it is protecting the underlying tissues also. It is helping to provide the flexibility, and it will form the structural network or the models for growing the bones. Keep it in your mind. So cartilages are exclusively supporting the body, providing a framework, provide attachment sites for the muscles, and protecting underlying tissues, helps to provide the flexibility, form structural models for growing the bones. These are the functions which are performed by the cartilage, and these all functions are also shown by the bones as well. Okay, so after this specific cartilage, there is a next connective tissue is present, and that is the bone. Keep it in your mind. In case of bone specifically, this is a type of connective tissue which is very hard, and calcified matrix is present, and that is containing so much amount of the collagen fibers. Osteocytes are also present in the bone matrix, or present in the lacunae portion, and they are that specific lacunae portion is highly vascularized due to presence of the blood vessels. And the function of the bones are they are supporting, protecting the inner portions, inner organs, because the skeletal system which is present in our body, that is made up of bone, and that is a cage like structure which is present in our body, protecting internal organs. It stores calcium, because by the calcium only these bones are getting produced, and other minerals are also present. And keep it in your mind, the bone marrow which is present inside the bone, that is making the blood cells, that is specifically RBC. And keep it in your mind, mainly the bones are made up of osteocyte cells. You can see in the figure, in between this specific lacunae or lamellae, the osteocyte, these black colored cells, whatever you can see, these black colored cells, these cells are exclusively the osteocyte cells, and these osteocyte cells are present in a circular way, or they are present in a specific throughout a circular path, and centrally located there is a special portion that is commonly known as central canal, and this is the overall structure of the bone. Coming to the type of the bone, if you see this specific slide, you can see or you can understand there are two types of bones are commonly present. One is spongy bone, another one is compact bone. Compact bone is the outer surface of the bone which is very much hard. It can be also called as cortical bone. It is made up of calcium exclusively, and it is surrounding the inner portion of the bone, that is the spongy bone. Keep it in your mind, this specific type of bone is very heavy, tough and compact in nature. Keep it in your mind. Okay, spongy bone is a type of the bone which is also called as cancellous or trabecular bone. Okay, because this is a specific type of the bone which is present internally to the bone, and this is the soft part. It is found in the long bones and is surrounded by the compact bones. It is present, or it is found in the long bones. Keep it in your mind, and it is surrounded by the compact bone. So compact bone is the outer surface, spongy bone is the inner surface or the inner portion of the bone. Okay, so after these types of the bones, we are entering within the last type of the connective tissue, and that is the blood. Exclusively keep it in your mind, blood is the last type of the connective tissue, because it is the liquid connective tissue which is connecting various kind of body organs and body tissues. It is made up of various kind of cells, red blood cell, white blood cells, and the platelets with the fluid matrix that is commonly known as plasma. Function is transporting respiratory gases, excretory materials, nutrients, minerals, ions, hormones, enzymes, various proteins, immune cells, immune proteins, all kind of the things are getting transported by the help of the blood. And for that reason, when the blood is present throughout the entire body, these all of the substances can get transported to each and every corner of our body. So blood is exclusively performing the function of the connective tissue. Whatever the other connective tissues you have seen, those are restricted in some of the region. As an example, bone is restricted in the skeletal system. The cartilage is the connective tissue which is exclusively present at the head region or the lower end region of the bones. Cartilages are exclusively present in some of the regions, as well as whatever the other type of the connective tissues, also irregular, regular, dense connective tissue, loose connective tissue, whatever you have seen, those are located in some of the regions. But this blood is such kind of the connective tissue which is distributed throughout the entire body, because this is only the connective tissue that is present in liquid format, and it is responsible only for the connecting various body organ and various body tissue. There is no such body organ or body tissue which are not getting connected by the help of the blood. Okay, obviously the blood will be going up to the surface of the tissue. No, it can't enter within the tissue, because inside the tissue there is another fluid, that is the tissue fluid, and that you all know, that is commonly known as lymph. Okay, so lymph also can be considered as a connective tissue, because they are just connecting the various kind of cells which are present within the tissue. So up to this we have completed our connective tissue portion. Now we will be starting with the muscular tissue or the muscle tissue. So in case of the muscular tissue, we all know that specifically this specific type of the tissue is present in various organs, as well as it is supporting our skeletal system, and it is responsible for the contraction and relaxation, and it is also controlling our body movement. So our body movement, internal muscles, contraction and relaxation, all these things are getting controlled by this one kind of tissue, that is the muscle tissue. So always keep it in your mind regarding this muscle tissue. Now the point is that functions of the muscle tissue. What are the functions are performed by the muscle tissue? Exclusively, the muscles are responsible for producing the body movement. Okay, because it is supporting our skeletal system. So obviously, when we are moving or locomoting from one place to another place, or when we are moving our body parts, obviously that specific activities or those specific activities are get controlled by the muscle tissue. It is stabilizing the body position also. Each and every organ, each and every structure, it is present in proper position. So that is also happening due to the muscle tissue. It is regulating the organ volume, because organs are actually supported by the muscle tissue. If any contraction and relaxation of the organ is happening, that is controlled by the muscle tissue. So obviously the volume of the organ maintenance, that also get controlled by the muscle tissue. Movement of the various substances within the body, like that blood, lymph, urine, air, food and fluids, sperm, these all kinds of the substance movement are getting controlled by the muscle tissue. Producing heat, if absolutely this specific muscle tissue is supporting our skeletal muscle or skeletal structure, I have already told. So when we are performing the voluntary actions, that means running, walking, so on that time, due to contraction and relaxation of the muscle fiber, the heat will be getting produced, as well as during the time of the winter season, by movement or by the shivering of the skeletal muscles, obviously the heat will be getting produced in our body, and by that we can resist the cold. Types of the muscles, mainly there are three types of the muscles are commonly present in our body. One is the skeletal muscle, second one is the smooth muscle, and third one is the cardiac muscle. So we need to see the differences in between these three. First one is the skeletal muscle. This is the type of the muscle which is exclusively supporting our skeletal system or entire skeleton. That's why it is called a skeletal muscle. It is showing voluntary movement because it is always get controlled by our desire. So for that reason it is obviously under our control. These muscle fibers are cylindrical and long, and keep it in your mind, multiple nuclei are there within this specific type of muscle fibers or myofibrils. This specific type of muscle fiber is containing black and white stripes, and those stripes are also present in an alternative manner. Okay, so that's why these muscles can be also known as striated muscle or striped muscle. Okay, and throughout our entire body, whatever the various organ systems and all these things are present, and they are constituting our entire body weight. So our entire 100% body weight, out of that 40% of the body weight is made up of skeletal muscle. That is also very important point that we need to keep it in our mind. Smooth muscle tissue. Smooth muscle tissue is the type of the muscle tissue which is supporting our internal organ. That's why they are commonly known as smooth muscle tissue. Exclusively these specific muscle tissues are, or muscle cells are spindle shaped. First of all, they are not having any of the striations. That means the stripe, black and white stripes, those are not present in this kind of the muscle. That's why they are commonly known as non-striated or non-striped muscles. Okay. Next point is that they are having single nucleus only. That means they are uninucleated. Okay. And the next thing is that this specific type of muscles are not getting controlled by us, because this specific muscular contraction and relaxation is exclusively involuntary. Okay. They are arranged in a very close manner and forming the sheet-like structures. We all know that also. So function is exclusively the internal body organ. Their contraction and relaxation control is mainly the function of smooth muscle tissue, and location obviously surrounding each and every body organ who are contracting and relaxing, they are surrounded by the smooth muscle tissue. If you come to the cardiac muscle tissue, you can see or you can understand this specific type of the muscle tissue is exclusively supporting our heart. Okay, so that's why it is commonly known as cardiac muscle tissue. So this specific type of the cardiac muscle tissue, keep it in your mind, it will contract to propel blood into circulatory system. Okay, and this specific type of muscle tissue is having the striations, so that's why they are having the striations, so that's why they are called as striated muscle fiber. But keep it in your mind, these cardiac muscle fibers are exclusively, or these cardiac muscle fibers are not having any kind of control by our desire. So that's why they are actually controlled, they are actually showing that involuntary movement. So one more thing, these specific muscle fibers are long and cylindrical, and they also show branching, and they are uninucleated also because they are having single nucleus. And keep it in your mind, in between the muscle fiber, obviously the intercalated discs are present in between each and every muscle fiber, and they are present at the wall of the heart, and they are responsible for contraction and relaxation of the heart. So these are the three type of the muscle tissue and the differences whatever I have told. So mainly keep it in your mind, skeletal muscle is the type of the muscle supporting skeletal system. Smooth muscle is responsible for supporting internal organs, and cardiac muscle is responsible for supporting the cardiac or heart. Second thing is that in case of skeletal muscle, the muscles are cylindrical, long. In case of smooth muscle, those are spindle shaped. In case of cardiac muscle, they are cylindrical again and branched also. In case of skeletal muscle, they are get controlled by our desire, so they are obviously under our control, they are showing the voluntary movement. Second one is that in case of smooth muscle, obviously they are not get controlled by our desire, so obviously they are showing involuntary movement. In case of cardiac muscle also, they are not get controlled by ourselves, that's why they are showing involuntary movement. Next important point is that in case of skeletal muscle, they are showing the stripes, black and white stripes are present alternatively. In case of smooth muscle, there is no such kind of stripe. In case of cardiac muscle, again the stripes are present. In case of skeletal muscle, they are multinucleated. In case of smooth muscle, they are uninucleated. In case of cardiac muscle, again they are uninucleated. Skeletal muscles, are not having any kind of the intercalated disc. In case of smooth muscle, they are also not having any kind of intercalated disc, but in case of cardiac muscle, obviously they are having the intercalated disc. Keep it in your mind. Next very important point, and the last point, is regarding their function. Skeletal muscle is absolutely supporting our skeletal system, responsible for our locomotion and movement. The smooth muscles are supporting our internal body organs, and the internal body organs contraction relaxation is getting controlled by it. And the cardiac muscle tissue is exclusively another type of the tissue which is responsible for the cardiac contraction and relaxation. Coming to the nervous tissue, this nervous tissue is exclusively the type of the tissue which is made up of neurons. Neurons are the structural and functional unit of this specific type of the tissue. That's why it is commonly known as or called as nervous tissue. And this nervous tissue is also acting as the coordinating tissue, because various kind of body organ and body tissue are getting coordinated by this help of the tissue. That's why it is commonly known as nervous tissue. Nervous tissue functions are they are exclusively converting the environmental and internal stimuli into the nerve impulses, because those specific type of the impulses are very much required for coordinating various body organ and tissue. It will stimulate as well as inhibit the cells as well as all of the glands. The nervous tissue is made up of two type of things. One is neuron and second one is neuroglia. So neurons are the main structural functional unit of nervous tissue, and neuroglia means the supporting cells which are present surrounding the neuron. Next, we can see regarding the structure of the typical neuron. We all know in the structure of the neuron, if you see, there are 2 to 3 portions. First portion is the cell body or cyton, second portion is the axon, and the third portion is the axon terminal or synaptic knob. So first of all, if you talk about the cell body or the cyton, it is actually a structure which is showing the aster or the star-shaped structure. It is containing nucleus which is present centrally. Within this specific typical neuron cell body, there are multiple types of small granules are present within the cytoplasm. Those are commonly known as Nissls granules, as well as the neurofibrils are also present within cytoplasmic matrix of the cell body or cyton. Cell body or cyton has just projected towards outward and forming a small projection, and those projections are commonly known as dendrons. And those dendrons are again further subdivided into so many branches, and those are commonly known as dendrites. Within nucleus, obviously nucleolus will be present. Next, from the lower portion of the cell body or cyton, the axon arises, and from which point, specifically I am showing in the slide, specifically this point, from where the axon will be arising, this point is commonly known as axon hillock, from where the axon is arising. Now, the axon is extending up to the synaptic knob, and keep it in your mind, throughout the entire axonal length, the myelin sheaths are present, and those are present alternatively, because the gaps are present in between the myelin sheaths. Keep it in your mind, this myelin sheath is exclusively made up of a myelin protein, and that is made up of by the type of cells which are commonly known as Schwann cells. And due to presence of the myelin sheath, obviously the conduction of the nerve impulse through this kind of the neuron will be faster than those specific type of the neuron which are not having the myelin sheath, or which are commonly known as non-myelinated fibers. So when the impulse will be coming to the last end, that is commonly known as axon terminal or nerve ending or synaptic knob. Keep it in your mind, there are some specific vesicular structures are present, and those are commonly known as synaptic vesicles, and those synaptic vesicles are exclusively containing the chemical that is called as neurotransmitter. According to the requirement, when the impulse will be reaching to the synaptic terminal or an axon terminal, on that time those synaptic vesicles will be releasing their secretion outside, and automatically the neurotransmitter will be getting released into the synapse region which is present in between the two neurons. And the neurotransmitter is the chemical substance through which the nerve impulse or the signal will be getting transmitted to the next neuron through the synapse. And one more thing I want to say here, that in between the myelin sheath, whatever the gaps are present, and those gaps are commonly known as node of Ranvier, and those specific nodes of Ranvier are exclusively having various kind of ion channels, sodium and potassium ion channels, and due to the exchange of those specific ions, mainly the nerve impulse is propagating through the axonal membrane or through the axonal process. Coming to the glial cells are those specific type of cells which are also known as neuroglial cells, because these cells are exclusively the supporting cell of the neurons. They can be also considered as the helper cells, support the neuron in their growth, in their development, in removal of their excretory material, supporting their body structure, every kind of the activity is performed by this glial cell. So we will be seeing here how many types of the glial cells are there for supporting neuron. Mainly there are astrocyte cells. From the name only we can understand these are aster-shaped or star-shaped structure. There are also another type of the cell which are known as satellite cells. Astrocyte and the satellite cells, these are all the type of the glial cells which are exclusively responsible for supporting the neurons. They are present surrounding the neuron so that it can support. Oligodendrocyte or the Schwann cells are responsible for producing the myelin sheath surrounding the axonal portion of the neuron, and it can help in the insulation process. Microglia, that means these of the glial cells are very small in size, that's why their name has been given microglia. They are responsible for immune surveillance as well as for the phagocytosis purpose. Ependymal cells are exclusively the type of the cells which are present inside the central canal of the vertebral column, and specifically when the ependymal cells are present there, they are responsible for creating the cerebrospinal fluid. So these astrocyte, oligodendrocyte, microglia, ependymal cells, these are all the types of the neuroglial cells, and those are responsible for various different functions, what we have seen in this table. So with this specific table, our animal tissue is getting finished. I think each and every one you have understood this entire video based on the connective tissue, muscular tissue and neural tissue very properly. I think you are not having any of the query regarding the specific video, and I think you have enjoyed this video a lot. So thank you everyone for visiting this video. Thanks a lot.